Ohio State can still accomplish all their goals in 2024.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a Thursday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Here on Thursday, October 17th in the year 2024. I am your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Ohio State is in a really good spot right now. They're one of the best teams in the country, and even though they just suffered their first loss of the year, there's a lot to be positive about when it comes to the Buckeyes football program. Ryan Day's leading it. They got a really good quarterback in Will Howard, the best backfield in the country, a defense that can get better. And with all that in mind, I started to think about the goals that Ohio State has set out to accomplish this year. Beat Michigan, win the conference, and to win the national championship. And all that is still possible. All of that is still on the table. Michigan, that game is still one that I do believe is going to be very, very physical. I still believe Ohio State's going to win the game. They should win the game because they're the better team. On that day, schematics will be a thing, but it's still Ohio State. And I think Ohio State is in a great spot to pick up their first win over Michigan since 2019. Going on to the Big Ten Conference, Ohio State, once again, is in a really good spot to be in the Big Ten Conference championship game. Yeah, they got a loss to Oregon, and it really does look like Oregon and Ohio State have a realistic opportunity to meet once again in the Big Ten championship game in Indianapolis. Oregon, during Big Ten Media Days, they put the duck in the canal in downtown Indianapolis, which was a really bold move, but hey, they backed it up on the field against Ohio State. Got to give credit to where credit is due. Then when it comes to the national championship, that's still possible too. Because even if Ohio State happens to, for some reason this year, have two losses, they're probably still going to get into the playoff. Now, it wouldn't be with the bye, and it wouldn't be with the home hosting a game in the first round of the playoff. That probably will be off the table. But the Buckeyes are still probably going to make the playoff. The Buckeyes can still accomplish all their goals. Now, do I think Ohio State will pick up another loss this year? Probably not. That trip to Happy Valley makes me a little bit nervous, but Ohio State should still walk out of there with a double-digit win. Michigan coming to town, that's more psychological than things on the field. I think psychologically by that time, I do believe that loss to Oregon will help Ohio State mentally prepare for the game against Michigan. Buckeyes win. A rematch against Oregon is the one thing that scares me. It's on the table that Ohio State can accomplish all the goals. That's not a lie. But a rematch against that team, that's really, really good. A rematch when Ryan Day has failed in certain areas in certain big games, when Jim Knowles has led the defense in ways where they have failed in some big games. All we know is Ohio State can still do all this stuff. That's a positive. I would also encourage a lot of you out there to stay off the social media, off Twitter. Maybe you're on Threads. Stay off there. The TikTok. Like, stay off of that stuff, man. Because maybe you go there for the news. Great. Like, I do that. NCAA released what they call it, interruption. Interruption, interpretation. Forget the exact wording they used. But basically changing the 12 men on the field rule that Dan Lanning took advantage of over the weekend. Okay, cool. So I find news on Twitter as well. I think we all do. Political news, sports news, whatever it is, we all find news on there. We can also go on there and see stuff that's stupid. And I recently had someone text me today, a Michigan fan actually text me today and ask how many times have I seen the word soft on Twitter after the game on Saturday. And I said, not really. I really haven't seen that. I told them I saw that word soft used a whole lot more after Ohio State lost to Michigan in 2021 and 2022, because I think that word soft described that team in those two games. I haven't really seen it after the game against Oregon, because I don't think you could come out of that game and say Ohio State is soft. But you'll see people out there make bold statements and say things that are a little crazy, a little cuckoo, and it will mess up your mentals. So my advice for a lot of people out there, and those of you are like me, got your cellular device and you take pictures and you use various apps and things like that, but also you're on these apps, man, and stay off of them. Just stay off as much as you can. Because especially right now when it's college football heavy on these apps, some stuff's going to come across your feed that kind of messes up your mentals. Don't do that, man, because it might cause you to lose sight about how good this team is, that they're still one of the top teams in the country. I believe top 5 in the coaches poll. I believe top 4 in the AP poll. The college football playoff poll will come out in a few weeks as well. I think they're still going to be top 5, maybe even top 3 in that poll. Think about this. Georgia and Texas play this weekend. Ohio State's going to should automatically move up because one of them is going to fall out. So things should go Ohio State's way, but Ohio State has to take care of business. I think that's the biggest thought right now when it comes to Ohio State moving forward after their bye week, as far as what Ohio State needs to do to accomplish all their goals. Just take care of business. The team is talented enough to accomplish all the goals, but Ohio State has to make sure that the coaches are putting the players in the right position. The players are policing themselves. The players are doing the right things on the field. Hey, change it up on the fly because it didn't work back then. You got that same look here later on in the game. Change things up. It's okay. An audible in game is not a bad thing, even if the coach says don't do it, because maybe you're seeing something that he's not seeing and you're realizing, bro, I've gone against this dude 2 years in a row. I know for a fact what he's doing on this play. I know what my coach is telling me, but I got this. I came back here to Ohio State, or I stayed here to Ohio State to accomplish a lot of things that I had not accomplished already during my Buckeye career. So, with that in mind, everybody should be happy about Ohio State football right now. Don't fire Ryan Day. Now, I'll tackle this. I wasn't really planning on doing that today, but the thought came into my head, and we got to just keep going down with this thing here. People out there saying fire Ryan Day. And I don't think Ryan Day should be fired based off the outcome of the game on Saturday. No. Now, if Ohio State loses to Michigan, if Ryan Day fails to win the Big Ten and doesn't make noise in the playoff, then we have a legitimate conversation about if Ryan Day should be fired. But we should not have that conversation after that game on Saturday. That is not enough data. That's not enough to say, oh, that loss pushes me over the edge. If it pushes you over the edge, reevaluate your analysis because currently you're going a little bit too far. Yes, everybody wants to win. Everybody, myself included, wants Ohio State to be very, very good and to win championships because it's great for the Buckeyes. It's what the Buckeyes want. If I'm a quarterback or if I'm name offered or let's go an actual quarterback and Tavion St. Clair and I'm coming to Ohio State in the future, I'm not coming to Ohio State just to wear the scarlet and gray or potentially wear the all-black jersey at one point throughout the year. No, I am coming to Ohio State to win rings and to make myself an ideal prospect for the National Football League. Ohio State can help those guys do that. And yes, Ryan Day's goal is to win a national championship and to win rings. Nobody around here has enough data to say Ryan Day should be fired because of that loss on Saturday. I know earlier this week I said, hey, don't blame Will Howard for that loss. I'm also going to say, don't fire Ryan Day for that loss. Y'all might not like it, and that's okay. We're just out here trying to talk about Buckeye football and have a good old time while doing it. There's also a guy that did some good things on Saturday, done good things all year, who has a chance to win a national award at the end of the season. He's a true freshman. You might know who I'm talking about. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Once again, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. All the action goes down on the FanDuel Sportsbook app and at FanDuel.com. This episode is brought to you by Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus has the best selection of pool tables, game tables, shuffleboard tables, and more, and the best service in Central Ohio. Everything you need for in-home and even backyard entertainment is at Billiards Plus. They are family-owned and operated, and when you talk to the staff at Billiards Plus, you know you're talking to an expert who won't steer you wrong. No matter the season, Billiards Plus has you covered for all your indoor and outdoor entertainment needs. Kenny, Sarah, and the whole staff will always go above and beyond to give you the best customer service in the industry. Billiards Plus. Visit their showroom on Dublin Center Drive in Dublin. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. Make sure, if you have not already, subscribe to Locked On Buckeyes on YouTube or Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your fine podcasts. It's free, and we got shows coming at you every Monday through Friday. One thing that's coming at opposing teams that are playing Ohio State this year is number 4, Jeremiah Smith, the true freshman receiver. He is good. He is elite. And him and Emeka Egbuka are on the watch list for the Biletnikoff Award, which goes to the best wide receiver in college football. Marvin Harrison Jr. won it last year, and it wouldn't shock me at all if one of these two talented receivers won the award this year because they're that good. Ohio State and Brian Hartline, I don't know how he does it at all, but I do know that when I watch Brian Hartline coach or when I hear him speak, I want to play for him. Absolutely, 100%. I want to play for Brian Hartline. He has me all balled in, and I can't play receiver. I'd never play receiver outside of backyard football or football in the snow at winter camp when I was a kid. I ain't never played no receiver. I've never thought about it, but I know if I wanted to play receiver in college football, I want to play for Brian Hartline because he just gets it. He's one of those guys like point guards in basketball that a point guard may have been a backup where they weren't the star, they weren't doing a lot of amazing things, or they were a starter in Derek Fisher's case, but they weren't like that dude, multi-time all-star, that dude kind of player. All of a sudden you find out, hey, they can coach. They can do some great things. Now, then, of course, you got guys like a Jason Kidd who's doing a pretty good job of coaching right now in the NBA. Then you have some guys like Steve Nash, who is great, but ultimately, I don't know if he's really made out to be an NBA coach, which is okay. Nothing wrong with that. But Hartline's one of those guys that gets it. He was also a guy who had, I think a 7-year career, 7 or 8-year career in the NFL, or at least maybe 10 years. I forget how long it's been. He played in the NFL too. Really good receiver at Ohio State. Really good receiver in the NFL. And what do you find? He is able to relay the things he knows. He's able to teach that to men that are 17 to 22, 23 years old. Because some guys come in here young at 17 years old. He's able to teach it year after year after year. And for Ohio State to have guys like Emeka Egbuka and Jeremiah Smith on the same team, it's almost a cheat code because there are so many teams around the country that would absolutely love, 100% love to have these two guys on the same team. Then you add in that Hartline's working with Cardinal Tate and Brandon Ennis and Bryson Rogers and Jaden Ballard and all the other guys he's working with. It's like he's finding ways not to just work with the elite of the elite, but even guys that have a little bit longer of a timeline to get onto the field. They're doing great things, man. And for Emeka Egbuka or Jeremiah Smith, I know Jeremiah Smith is the headliner, but Emeka Egbuka can't be laughed at either, can't be forgotten about. He's a guy that might be down the road, a future first-round pick. I do believe he has a great shot to do that. He currently leads Ohio State in receptions, has more receiving yards than Jeremiah Smith, and he has 6 receiving touchdowns. On the year, Emeka Egbuka, 40 catches, 526 yards through the air, and 6 touchdowns. Jeremiah Smith, 32 receptions, 553 on the receiving yards, and 7 touchdowns. Their averages per reception, y'all, this is stupid. Jeremiah Smith is 17.3 yards per reception. Emeka Egbuka is 13.2. Cardinal Tate is 15.5, and Brandon Ennis is 11.5. That's just insane. I know numbers only tell us part of the story. We watch these games. Our eyeballs tell us these dudes are elite. These guys are great. And it wouldn't shock me if Jeremiah Smith or Emeka Egbuka won it. Here's the thing. For them to win the award, they got to have a moment. just like when it comes to the Heisman Trophy, a lot of times the guy that wins the Heisman, they got a moment. They got a big stage, a massive audience, and they just go off. Down the road, Ohio State is going to have a couple moments for these guys to just flex their muscle and say, I deserve to win that award at the end of the day. On the road in Happy Valley and home against Michigan, those are the type of stages where if you're trying to make a name for yourself or a bigger name for yourself or trying to win an award, that's that kind of stage. The thing is about these two guys, they got guys all around them that are getting the job done consistently. And it wouldn't shock me if down the road, Ohio State not only has a guy win the Biletnikoff this year, it really wouldn't shock me at all. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Buckeye guy. Like, legit. Jeremiah Smith or Egbuka wouldn't shock me. If you're a Travis Hunter guy, cool. That's great. It's a lot of Luther Burton III. If you're that guy, great. There's a lot of great receivers. I don't know if any of them are better than Jeremiah Smith. Ryan Williams down in Alabama, maybe. But even then, I'm taking Jeremiah Smith over Ryan Williams. That's just me. That's just me. I've seen him, and I've seen Ryan Williams. Jeremiah Smith is just different. That's one of the best things that I can say about him to describe him. Like I said, some call him an alien. Some call him unreal. I have tweeted out before, that boy's not normal. That's just him, man. We pull out all of these different phrases and words to describe things that we don't normally see, and we're using all of them and making something up to talk about Jeremiah Smith because he's just that good. The body control, the maturity, the physical strength, all of the attributes you want in a receiver, he has them. He's a true freshman. Could he be a first-round pick in this year's draft? Possibly if he was able to come out. Would he be the first overall pick? Maybe, because he's that dude. That's all I got to say about him. Now, there's other awards out here that I do think realistically you could find a couple of Ohio State current players and a former coach win at the end of the year. The Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award, which goes to the outstanding senior quarterback. Will Howard's also going to have some of these stages that Emeka, Egbuka, and Jeremiah Smith are going to have at the end of the year to make some noise as well. He's going to have that stage against Penn State. He's going to have that stage in his first game against Michigan, and he's going to be – now, luckily for him, it's at home, but even if it's on the road, he's going to say, oh, man, I know what we did down at Kansas State. I know we played in the Big 12 championship. This is a little bit different. This is different than all the other rivalry games in the sport. Army, Navy, Alabama, Auburn, Red River this past weekend, the world's largest cocktail party. I know I still call it that. Whatever you want to call it, the Civil War, the Apple Cup, so many things out there. This game is bigger. This game's bigger than all of those rivalries. And so it wouldn't shock me at all if Will Howard at the end of the day won that award. He's on the right team. He's a good quarterback being led by good coaches. I think he'll be ready for the moment down the road. Also, the Remington Trophy, which goes to the outstanding center. I think Seth McLaughlin is a guy that could realistically win this award down the road because he's been that good. For everyone that says Josh Simmons is the best offensive lineman at Ohio State, which I'm not going to try to debate that. Anybody that says Simmons is one, you're saying McLaughlin's two. I don't think anybody's saying Fryer is two. I don't think anybody's saying Donovan Jackson is two, because that's still him not trying to. I got the game. We all got the college football game. It came out. He was, 92 overall. And I'm thinking, what did he do last year to warrant that rating this year? And I still believe right now he hasn't earned the rating to be the best offensive lineman on the game for Ohio State. Good player, but, man, he's making some mistakes. Seth McLaughlin, number 2 or number 1 best offensive lineman right now for Ohio State. And he should be up in the running for the Remington Trophy at the end of the year. Then there's an award that I just saw. It's not been around for a very long time. I believe Mike Leach, Archie Manning, I forget who the first award. Lou Holtz has won this award. It's called the NCFAA Contributions Award. Basically goes kind of like a lifetime achievement. Give it to Jim Tressel. Now, I understand this may be an FBS only thing, but for what Jim Tressel did at Youngstown State and what he did at Ohio State and what he has been as a contributor and an ambassador for the Ohio State University, give it to Jim Tressel. I want to ride for Jim Tressel as long as I can because he's that kind of man. He's an outstanding coach. He's the kind of individual that you just want to be around and learn from, and sit down and as he speaks, you take it in all of these mental notes. That's what Jim Tressel is. Done so much for the game. Give the man an award, a national award. He's already in the Hall of Fame. Give him this too. There's one thought I have as we kind of close the book on Ohio State and Oregon, and it's about the things that happened at the end of the game, and just lessons the Buckeyes can learn from how things went down in the final seconds in Austin Stadium. This episode is brought to you by Hims. Your sex life is important, but your schedule is busy. You don't have the time to go to a doctor's office to get treated for ED. Through Hims, you can get a personalized ED treatment without stepping foot outside your door. Hims is changing men's health care by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable, compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. As we close the book on Ohio State's game against Oregon, it was an instant classic. It was a great game to watch from start to finish for college football fans all across the world. And I think a lot of Ohio State fans realized something at the end of the game that's true, not just with football, but with basketball and soccer and any sport out there. There's one thing that is true. You know, in close games, there are going to be moments late where a call could decide things late in the game, or where a bad coaching decision or a good coaching decision could propel your team to win or lose the game. But those late game decisions should not be the deciding factor in the game. And actually, they're not. There are moments throughout that game that Ohio State had opportunities to capture the game and to take advantage of the game and even maybe go up 2 scores or to stop Oregon from scoring. Didn't do it. I believe all game long, it was a 1-possession game all game, 7 lead changes. I mean, the game was just back and forth, a very highly competitive game, one that we rarely see in the regular season. And one thing I think about when it comes to Ohio State is, yes, Ohio State can learn this lesson, but they've been here before. I mean, literally last year against Oregon, against Michigan, it was a very, very, very close game. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And everyone wants to point the finger at either Marvin Harrison Jr. for the way he ran that route or for Kyle McCord for throwing the INT. When you kind of gloss over things that happened in the first, second, third quarters that impacted the outcome. And if there were key moments earlier, just sequences earlier, drives earlier in the game that had different results, either 3 points or simply forcing Oregon to punt in the fourth quarter, there were certain things that happened previously that wouldn't have allowed Dan Lanning using 12 men to have such a big impact on the game, or Will Howard sliding as the clock expired to have such a big impact on the game. But what do we find right now? Ohio State under Ryan Day, which it's not fun because these losses are so rare, which I'm going to tackle that here later on in a second. But this stuff should be fixed. Do you practice with 1-minute drills or 2-minute drills or 4-minute drills? Of course you do. But what you do in practice is a whole lot different than what happens in a game. Also, keep this in mind. Last week in the Woody, they were pumping in crowd noise and trying to simulate the atmosphere Ohio State was going to play in last weekend. But one thing you can't do, you can try to simulate all you want. Even if you practice inside all week and you got this noise pumping in, you don't have 60,000 fans around you. You don't You know for a fact in practice, the whole world's not watching. At the end of the day, I believe that game got a number of 10.2 million people that watched the game, Ohio State, Oregon. I believe it peaked in the final minutes of over 13 million people. Yeah, practice is one thing. You can't simulate that stuff at all. And so, yeah, Ohio State working on 1 minute drill and working on 4 minute drill and 2 minute drill, yes. But ultimately, Ohio State is not acting like they've been there before. And that's what concerns me. Ohio State has been in these situations year after year after year. Penn State, yeah, Tuimoloau did a lot of great things. But in the final minutes, that game was wrapped up. It wasn't like Ohio State was trying to figure things out and do a 4 minute drill, do a 2 minute drill. No, that game was wrapped up. It was a double digit. The margin was double digits, and Penn State couldn't do anything. But all of a sudden, maybe the players are saying, here we go again, since it's deja vu. Michigan, Georgia. Think about these games. The end of the game against Georgia felt different than the end of the game against Oregon. Why? Was the players? Was it what they were doing? Well, a lot of these same players were on the field against Georgia. A lot of these same players were on the field last year against Michigan. Why did this feel different? Now, I'll be honest with you. Last year against Michigan, I didn't have much faith in Kyle McCord to get that thing done. I know what we saw last year against Notre Dame, but I didn't have much faith in Kyle McCord to get that thing done. I did not. Now, part of it was Ryan Day, and part of it was the players. I just didn't have that belief. I didn't have that faith. I wasn't really comfortable this past weekend either. As Will Howard was trying to say, go, 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 it seemed like in the latter part of the fourth quarter, the Buckeyes just weren't up to speed, acting like they've been there before. Or a better thought or different thought, they just did what they had normally done. And that might just turn you down the road. My preseason prediction, I'm going to revisit this right now in the middle of the year because I know someone's going to ask me for it, was that Ohio State was not going to win the Natty. Not because they weren't good enough. I just didn't think they were the better team in the country. And I don't know right now if they're the best team in the country. I know if FanDuel says on a neutral side, Ohio State will be favored by 2.5. That's cool. I ain't there yet. You might be. Your boy not there yet. Is this what people should expect down the road? For Ohio State players to do the same thing they have done previously, or do the thing they have done the most in those late game situations, offensively, defensively. I haven't really ripped Jim Knowles as much as I haven't talked about Jim Knowles a lot this year and this week, but maybe I should have, because I'm sitting down during this game and talk about doing the same things you have done before and it really being confusing because you're getting the same result. I'm watching that game. I don't know what quarter it was, but I was very confused as to why. I looked up Ohio State simulating pressure. They're blitzing guys. And I said to my wife who was sitting next to me, why are they dropping the defensive tackles into coverage? It didn't make any sense. If you're already struggling to get pressure, why bring the same amount of pressure and drop your D tackles and basically cause them to spy on Dylan Gabriel? I understand changing stuff up, but make sure your changes make sense. Because, baby, that didn't make no sense at all. And maybe I'm getting a little nervous as I speak this out at the end of this show about what Ohio State might do down the road. I didn't predict them to win the national championship. I know it's a natty or bust year that the players are talking about. Cool. Like, I get all of that. I could be wrong in my prediction. I wouldn't be mad about that at all. But something has to change, man. Yeah, changing that stuff up. Cool, making changes. Those were dumb. I don't normally say coaching decisions are dumb. Baby, that was dumb. We see some stuff on offense. Doesn't make any sense. Now, I know something that was said earlier about there being kind of a rotation at right guard, and that was dumb. Like, very dumb. You can't do that now. I mean, you can. I still think it would be stupid. But you may have to put Tegra Shabola at left tackle. I don't really mind Zen Mahalski being the left tackle now, but that might just be the best fit. But do you put Tegra there, and do you put Austin Serveld? And I know I keep saying it. In the offseason, they said that they could move McLaughlin and Hensman, and they could kind of swing between right guard and center. Based off the things we have seen so far this year, I don't think that's going to happen. But if that's something they're thinking, it wouldn't shock me, because right now, Offensive line has to fix some stuff. Defense has to fix some stuff. And going forward, Ohio State cannot allow leg-in situations to be so drastic. You can't do it. No. Fix things earlier in the game so that even in some of the close games down the stretch, you're in the driver's seat because you're Ohio State. In those moments, you should be in the driver's seat. Thank y'all for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast. Craig Sheeman puts the Big Ten first when everyone else overlooks it. Find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes on a Thursday. We'll see you next time.